I tried to avoid this. I really tried to avoid it. I know you did too. But everyone was just posting so fucking much about it. And on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, just posting livid about this fucking shit that it was unavoidable. It's the Beto and Bernie, the little cat fight there. You know what it was like? It was like Bart trying to read the newspaper. Hey, Jughead, did you hear Beto O'Rourke's position on Medicare for All is Berkey at best? Oh, God damn it.
People tweeting while carving into their fucking Christmas hams. Just ignoring their entire families and their stocking stuffers and cherished memories in order to get off a hot take about Beto and Bernie. And of course the response for many is this is the next year. Speaking about looking forward, this is the next year.
Yep. Oh yeah, big time. But the whole thing is relevant. This is from top to bottom an utterly manufactured controversy. Neither man has launched a presidential campaign. We don't even know what Bernie thinks about Beto. I mean, it's stupid. It's maddening. It's genuinely maddening. We don't know who these candidates are going to be.
It is stupid in the sense that nothing anyone says on these forums this far out is going to mean anything, and people need to get kind of internalize that. There's this real urge to impart meaning on your posts because we have nothing else to do, because we feel so totally helpless, and we grab anything that even feels like agency, and we invest it with import. And I understand that. I've certainly felt that way too. But I think that the instinct, like the Bernie Crat sort of antibodies going into overdrive when the Beto push came, when you got those first few articles about Beto, I think that came from a totally understandable place.
Right. That's the bafflement at the liberal infatuation with him.
Well, it's bafflement, but it's also you're recognizing what they're trying to do. Like there is one potential candidate for 2020 who is unacceptable to the Democratic establishment. They've said so. Like Third Way has said, we're for anybody but Bernie.
Yep.
And so that means for anybody who is genuinely horrified by the current Democratic Party and sees electoral politics as a way of uprooting them and creating a new opposition force, then that means he's the only candidate for you. Yeah. And that's obviously true. People can say he's old, he has problems with articulating himself on race or gender or whatever, all true. None of them mean anything in the face of his singular status as the only candidate who is perceived by the establishment as a real threat. And so he is to be supported. And that means that when you see these people, especially people who spent 2016 saying how much they were done with white men, rallying around this guy, Beto O'Rourke, you can see them trying to look for that life preserver that'll save them from another Bernie tide that's going to be a headache, especially since this time there's going to be this huge, probably like 10 plus candidates running. There's going to be the establishment
20,
money and support is going to be spread out over a lot of places. And the worry is it's going to take too long to coalesce around an anti-Bernie that he might end up getting the nomination. And so they want somebody who can not just be another face in the establishment crowd, a guy they can trust who could potentially steal Bernie's thunder, steal his supporters, and torpedo him before the first primary has been run.
But keep in mind, that's not just the establishment. There are, this cannot and ought not to be ignored, quite a lot of people who are regular Democratic voters who don't like him for a number of maddening and stupid reasons.
Right, but it's not, I mean, who knows what polling means at this point in time, but it doesn't seem to be a significantly large percentage of voters. And
well, also keep in mind, like, not every primary is a closed primary, so to a point like that, polling is irrelevant.
Exactly. But there is just this establishment desire to find somebody who can neutralize the Bernie threat, and they see Beto as the most plausible guy. I mean, they talk about him as the white Obama, and Obama was the guy who got the young people, and the young people who were the ones who powered Bernie. And their big hope is that those young people went for Bernie because of his sexy old man charisma, and not his uncompromising demand and uncompromising commitment to policies that are oppositional to the democratic orthodoxy. And that's why they love Beto, because they're hoping that he can get by on the charisma and his toothy smile, and all of that concern about white male candidates goes out the window.
So interestingly, Jonathan Chait, of all people, seems no more than his colleagues about what's really happening here, what really animated the Beto versus Bernie online contretemps. And he correctly ascertained that, and I'm quoting from him here, the primary struggle in American politics, as they see it, they being the Bernie-crats, or the nascent intellectual left, is not between liberalism and conservatism, but between socialism and capitalism.
Correct.
And obviously that's true. And if I would have the opportunity to talk about this, which you guys were drawn into this. You were quoted in news articles trying to stoke the fires with whatever you little monsters said. And if I would come into this, I would say I agree. I'm not interested in progressivism, which is a euphemism that's the easiest fucking thing to call yourself.
Yeah.
Like, most of the candidates will just call themselves progressives in 2020. And I'm not interested in being, and I don't really care to be reassured that no, this candidate is a progressive. This candidate is a great progressive.
Yes.
They signed on to a bunch of bills that have absolutely no chance of ever passing.
Yeah.
I'm interested in candidates who are at minimum, and I think what we need are candidates who are at minimum critical of capitalism at its core.
Yes.
And ideally pose a real threat to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Beto O'Rourke is obviously neither. And I went out, and last night I looked into this. On his campaign website, Beto's position on the economy starts with, all workers should benefit from the economic growth they help create. That's good, right? I agree with that. Sure.
Workers are entitled to the product of their labor.
Now, then
Classic
it goes.
Marx.
Then it goes into the bullet points of how to do that. You ready for these?
Workers of the world unite, baby.
You ready for these? Promote policies that encourage companies to focus on returning investments back to their consumer, their employees, and to the community.
Oh, hell yeah. Give me some of that.
Lower the barrier of entry for small businesses so that every entrepreneur or emerging growth company can have an opportunity to be successful.
Go off.
I am skateboarding into that.
Absolutely. This is this? Wait a minute. This is Beto O'Rourke. Are you sure this isn't the Communist Manifesto? Because this is the exact same boilerplate that every Democrat has. Every Democrat talks this way, and that is why
a lot of Republicans do too.
Exactly.
It's devoid of any meaning. It's
that's why I want to say There's one term that seeing people talk about drives me insane. And it really is. It gets to the heart of why electoral politics, if they have purpose, have one, and that is, I see a lot of these Democrats saying, "Why are you being such purists? You purists, you demand the most pure candidate." And the mindset behind that is the idea that we're all on the same team, and that there's there's like 100% progressive whatever, and then they're angry at you for demanding 100% purity instead of 95% purity, and that's a sleight of hand that obscures the hand of capital, because take what healthcare is obviously the easiest one, and it's the biggest one, and it's going to be because it's the thing that directly affects the most people. Polling shows it is people's number one concern, and it is a crisis thing, and it is a situation where there is the socialist position of Medicare for all, whatever that ends up meaning. Is one that abolishes a profit center, abolishes a capitalist market.
Yes.
It abolishes the insurance industry.
That is the only left position.
Exactly.
Here.
And these people try to act like they use the word purity because that says, well, if you get universal coverage and we still have employee-based healthcare and we still have this patchwork system, but it covers everyone, that is in its particulars, that's identical to something like Medicare for All or single payer or the NHS or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not, because it still has insurance companies, which means it still has all of the inefficiencies and grotesque injustices of a profit-based healthcare system. Like, most people, they're happy with their healthcare in that they have it, but if they need to use it, it can still be disastrous. The number of people who are rendered bankrupt by medical bills while having insurance is huge. The number of people who don't seek health care because they can't afford it, even though they need it, and are insured, is still significant. These problems persist even if you're covered. And they still allow this parasitic industry that gives tons of money to the Democrats to persist.
Yes.
And so any effort that tries to fix healthcare while leaving insurance is not a break with capitalism in the context of healthcare. Medicare for All, whatever that ends up being, if it ends insurance companies, it is a direct assault upon that pillar of like the market.
Yeah.
And that is a different thing. It's not a question of percentages of purity. It is a different creature than whatever patchwork bullshit Democrats talk about when they talk about expanding access to affordable health care.
But broadly speaking, even if Bernie were to be elected president, and I know you talk about this a lot, there has to be a transformational change in the Democratic Party. There has to be a massive upheaval, and quite a lot of people need to leave the party. Like,
Absolutely.
that's it.
Oh my
you
God.
can't have a party that's both bosses and workers. That doesn't function. That doesn't do anything.
You can't have a situation where, for example, say there is, it falls into, luckily the Democrats win the Senate. If they keep the filibuster, there's no hope for any kind of meaningful movement on anything from healthcare to climate change to anything.
But again, even if they had a 2-vote majority in the Senate and they abolished the filibuster, they don't have 50 votes to pursue a radical agenda.
Right. Well, but they wouldn't have 50 votes to get rid of the filibuster in the first place.
Oh, right. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you would need 50, ideologically pure or devoted legislators to accomplish anything whatsoever. Right.
No, I mean, that is the real danger of if Bernie were to win, there's the good case, it's a flip of the coin basically, and I don't even know how it would turn out. Is Bernie's, because he's not going to get anything done. People need to get that through their head. The way the current Democratic Party is arrayed, if he were to get into power, even if they held both houses, he's not going to get this stuff through.
Well, he would have to go to war with the party,
exactly.
And that's kind of something that I've been thinking about a bit, trying to game out what Bernie's campaign in the next year is going to look like. And the conclusion that I keep coming to, and especially, after reviewing the evidence of this, all of the people who have shown their hands here in 2018 about what they really think about him, and thanks for doing that on this early day, that he has to run as an insurgent again, and he has to run as a cleansing force to take over the party.
Yeah.
And the, Democratic Party apparatchiks or just like loyalists who say like, oh, he's not even a Democrat and his supporters aren't even Democrats and they just want to take over the party are correct. That absolutely, utterly needs to happen. And I take solace in the fact that should Bernie win, I can't really imagine a circumstance where it doesn't fracture the party,
right,
where it doesn't go to the convention and there's a gigantic fucking floor fight over him. I don't think he could really win by like a convincing margin. I don't think he'd win like run away with it like Kerry did. It would be a slog where he would probably win a lot of contests with, 40% of the vote or something like that. He has, I think, the highest floor of any candidate right now. I think that's proven. It's something in the level of 20%. That's a hell of a lot. Mm-hmm. And if he is capable of running an extremely disciplined campaign, which I don't know if he is. I don't know if his team is even up to this task. But if he can run an efficient delegate operation, if he can crucially bring people who aren't regular Democratic voters into these caucuses and primaries, I certainly think that his ceiling could be anywhere from 40 to 60%, which would be enough if consistently across the board to take the nomination. But it would be a gigantic fight, and a lot of people would leave the party over it. There would potentially be a third-party challenge.
Well, the American Lib Dems, basically.
Yes.
Well, the question...
but here's the thing. I think that would be good.
No,
that would be
the thing is,
extremely good.
It's necessary because Sanders' presidency, like I said, there's a good case, there's a best case scenario, worst case scenario. The best case scenario is that his presidency is this bolt of lightning that illuminates all of the hidden compromises and corruptions of the Democratic Party, and that enough voters who consider themselves Democrats and also maybe have not until now but are drawn to Sanders specifically come together to insist upon people being in accord with his policies, and that even if these guys, the specific politicians, don't have some change of heart, they are coerced by their own constituents into supporting his point of view. And that's best case. Worst case scenario is that he's Carter, and like a reverse Carter, because Carter was the first neoliberal president who came into office with a New Deal Congress and tried to push them to the right. He tried to beat them to the right, and they fought him the whole time, and he got nothing done, and he ended up losing.
He deregulated a few industries,
right? And then he became the harbinger for the greater neoliberalism. So I don't know. Maybe that would be good too, because Carter brought Reagan. Maybe Sanders would bring Ultra Sanders,
or Ultra Reagan,
or
dead Reagan.
That's the thing, is that we do have, because the Republican base is so durable that these kind of fractures can sometimes allow them to even though they will never again be a majority position in this country, they've got things wired still to this point that they can take any kind of break among the Democrats as an opportunity to.
What's interesting you talk about that, the Republican base and its durability. I don't know how you want to cut this, but maybe 35-40% of the country or so. Yeah. And certainly a shrinking share, but an increasingly radical share of the country that is completely in thrall of Trump. And what really needs to be created here in this country is a comparable left base, I don't call it a Bernie Sanders base of the country that is equally uncompromising, that is equally radical, that is equally demanding of its politicians.
Yes.
And that base, I think the people are there, but they have not been organized or radicalized in any fashion. And the Democratic Party obviously is not doing that, has no structural interest in doing that. Correct. And this is what Bernie really has to grapple with going into 2020 is there are quite a lot of Democratic voters who are woke, but whose class interests are opposed to redistributive policies and who will fight him tooth or nail. And just as well, there are quite a lot of Democrats who are fine with swallowing bullshit. There's quite a lot of them who have, like, as we wrote in our book, The Chapo Guide to Revolution, a manifesto against logic, facts, and reason, checked into the asylum, who believe that Bernie is a Russian agent. And people whose brains are massaged when they hear something like incentivizing opportunity.
Ooh, I love that.
Oh, God. One poll of Iowa Democrats I saw has Joe Biden with an 80% favorability rating among Democratic voters.
Yeah, well, Biden is the wild card. I think you and I are sort of in agreement that he's likely to just get Me Too'd out of the gate. And
Biden, I'm happy to say that now, is that Biden, I believe, will implode spectacularly. There's absolutely no way that he, stays in the pole position. It's another Jeb, it's another Lieberman, it's another Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, I think that's likely. Well, no matter what happens with the Democratic primary and all the other shit happen, we can guarantee that it will be incredibly stupid and enervating, and people will make you want to die on a daily basis. But we will be here the whole way to make you want to kill yourself slightly less.
It will. It will be. And we wanted to talk about this more in this episode. We're running out of time here, but I just want to close on this note that it's a lesson to the hogs, the treasured hogs, the prize pigs.
Precious pigs.
That if you are going to be following politics and being online in the next 2 years, you're going to have to face a lot of people who are idiots, who are mendacious, who are safeguarding their class interests, or they're straight up paid to say things, who will tell you that Bernie's a racist, misogynist, whatever. And you can't talk to those people. You can't win them over with your logic or links. You can't send them pictures of corn cobs or guillotines and think you've accomplished anything. And you can't get angry at them because, of course, that means you lose. Any engagement is a profound waste of time. And that's a lesson, not just for online, but for this campaign overall, and however one should choose to engage with it. Because the energy spent on the Bernie Sanders 2020 campaign would be utterly wasted if we're not focused on building a mass movement that will outlive him. Otherwise, it's just posting and getting mad at shitheads, which are fine indulgences while we wait for the notions to consume us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep that in mind, because these siren call of the online own is incredibly powerful, as we all know. But it is a beckoning to the rocks.